Welcome back to Blasters and Dreams. Today we are going to review Season 7, Episode 1 of my favorite Star Wars series, The Clone Wars. It is finally back. It's been years. The series first started in 2008, went through 5 incredible seasons. The quality just got better every year. And then the show got canned and put on the shelf for a couple of years after Disney bought Lucasfilm. There was a few episodes released of season 6, some episodes that they had started and wrapped up, and then we thought it was over. But last year we got surprised with the announcement that there would be one final season, and I'm excited. I can't wait, and at the same time I'm so sad because it's the last year of a show that I just absolutely love. I've had the privilege of meeting some of the people involved with this series, Dave Filoni, the creator, Ashley Eckstein, who voices Ahsoka, D. Bradley Baker, who does the voice of all the clones in the entire series, and James Arnold Taylor, who's the voice of Obi-Wan. They've all been incredibly kind, and you can just tell that they love working on this series and just pour everything they have into it. Just fair warning, there's going to be spoilers in this discussion. We're just going to work through this episode called The Bad Batch. If you're new to Clone Wars and you want to get caught up a little bit, this episode does a good job of diving into the action but not making you feel like you've missed a bunch. You can kind of just watch it and be right there in the middle of it, but you can tell that there are some things that you probably missed along the way if you haven't watched all the seasons. I'm going to recommend 2 episodes in particular for you to go back and check out if you really want to get caught up on some things. The first one was in season 2, episode 16, called Cat and Mouse. This is where we're introduced to Admiral Trench, who is the main villain, I guess, in the shadows of the Bad Batch. You get an idea of his intelligence and his cunning, and I just recommend watching that if you want to get a little bit of backstory about this villain. But more important than that is an episode from season 3, episode 19, Counterattack. There's actually a 3-episode arc that starts with 18 and goes through 20 that's centered around the Citadel and a rescue attempt of Jedi Master Even Peel. But this is the episode where we see what happened to Clone Trooper Echo, episode 19 at the end. And I recommend highly that you go, if you've got time, go watch all 3 of those episodes, but in particular episode 19, so you can see what Rex is talking about in The Bad Batch. Let me just start off by talking about the thing that I love the most about this episode, and it is focused on from the opening credits, a little bit of wisdom that they show at the top of every episode, talking about embracing your differences, and it runs all the way through the entire episode. And if you go back, this is one of the hallmarks of the entire series, and that is the importance of the individuality of each of the clones. They're not just copies. If you go back to the very first episode, season 1, episode 1, Yoda gets stranded with 3 clone troopers on this moon. It's I'm not going to go over the whole review of that episode, but at one point he ends up in a cave with the troopers, and they think that they're just expendable copies. And Yoda takes the time to have them remove their helmets and talk about the personality and the heart of each one and how important each one of those clones are to him. And that's what you see in The Bad Batch. You've got Rex, and maybe a little bit of foreshadowing to him not giving in to Order 66. He doesn't tell Anakin and Mace about the thought that he has that Echo might still be alive and might be the cause somehow of the problems that they're facing. These clones have been through it, and it's something we didn't get in the prequel films. You see them fighting, but you don't feel the toll that the war is taking on them as people. And if you go back and watch that season 3 episode, when the explosion takes out Echo and you see Fives, his brother, just the pain in that moment, and you feel that with Rex in this episode, man, it just builds this appreciation and love for the troopers. And I think that's something the Clone Wars has done so well. And you want to talk about individuality in the clones, ramp that up to 11 when Clone Force 99 shows up to help turn the tide. Their individual characteristics are great. It kind of takes this point of embracing differences and magnifies it to the extreme. Some of the characters, I'm assuming over the arc, we'll get to know them a little bit better. But my favorite one was Hunter, Rambo in Star Wars. I mean, from the hair to the bandana to the giant knife that he wields, it's, if they could have had Baker do some sort of a Stallone accent, that's the only way it would have been even more blatant that they were going for Rambo. And I loved it. You've got Wrecker, who was just crazy. And my favorite thing about Wrecker was his gun. I mean, not just his humor and his laughing, but he's wielding the DC-17M, which is the gun of the Republic Commandos. For those of you that were doing Star Wars games more than a decade ago, we got introduced to that blaster rifle in Republic Commando, the game. You can play it now if you're playing Battlefront 2 with the Commando character. The sound, I just love having that weapon in this series. Tech, the Donatello of the group with the glasses, and then you got Crosshairs, who we don't really get a lot from, but this incredibly accurate sniper. But each one of them brings something different to the squad. They have a great team dynamic because they are solid individual performers and they understand their roles in the team, something that the clones have shown all the way through this series. The other thing that's on display all the way through this episode are the technical advancements that they've made in the last decade. Things like the lighting, the textures, the character animation, the number of characters they can have on the screen, the atmospherics, dust and lighting and just particle effects and the flames, everything. Filoni talked in an interview recently about how it hasn't made things easier, but they're able to do more. And you see that all the way through this entire episode. And I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the season. The other side of that, in addition to that, there were a couple of moments, but one in particular in this episode that I had never seen in the Clone Wars. And that was a long tracking shot with no cuts that made this episode feel so cinematic. When the Bad Batch is coming in through the back door when they're attacking the facility, there's a shot from the moment when Wrecker kicks in the door all the way to where they secure the facility. So you start outside, you kick in the door, they work down the hallway, they infiltrate the central command center, wipe out all the droids and take control of the facility. It's almost 40 seconds with no cuts, and it just feels like you're in the middle of a feature film. Kudos to the director, the animation and art leads. This was just a tremendous shot, and I hope that and I'm sure there will be more moments like this throughout this season. There's really only one little thing that I didn't love in this episode, and that's just how it's not that the droids are ineffective. I mean, that's just a joke all the way through most of the films and most of the Clone Wars. But sometimes it just gets to a level where you just kind of roll your eyes a little bit. When they're in the cyber center, there's a moment where the squad is working down a very small hallway. The super battle droids are in the same hallway. They're not that far away, just a few feet away. There's no cover, and no clone gets even grazed with a bolt. There's hundreds of blaster shots going down this hallway. It's a minor quibble, but it is something that stood out to me watching each time that I've watched the episode. It's just, I understand it's just a suspension of disbelief thing, and you can't just have the clones all get butchered in this hallway. The season would be pretty short, but it did seem a little outlandish. But all in all, I thought the Bad Batch was a perfect kickoff to this final season. It reminded me, and hopefully reminded you, of why this series has been so good, why the fan base loves Clone Wars. and I cannot wait to see where these next 12 episodes take us. Now, what did you think? Did you love it? What were some things you didn't like? Let's talk about that in the comments. I just am so excited for the series. I can't wait to see where it goes. If you like this video, if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and give the video a thumbs up. And we'll be back next week to check out episode 2 of the final season of the Clone Wars. See you, everybody.